Afternoon, John.
Hey Marty, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's a beautiful, beautiful day here in Sacramento.
Yeah, yeah, same here. The sun's out. Yeah.
I just this morning completed the first revision of the book I've been writing,
Oh my God.
and there's actually a couple of things I want to draw to your attention if we have time that I
Yeah.
that I forgot when I went through the original writing of it, relevant to
Oh, you just froze.
yeah,
Now you're back on. Okay, so
yeah,
a couple of things you want to draw.
relevant to this thing that I've been exploring, and by implication, we explore this in the accountability practice. It's not quite as explicit as I make in my book, but that's the appreciation of the collective consciousness. And one of the inquiries of the book is using accountability practice in conjunction with or integrating with Ken Wilber's integral process. Then the question, what do I want, is equally valid for the question of what do we want. And that a lot of the world that we live in, or the world that we live in, is the world that we are creating with our collective, albeit subconscious and kind of not yet accessible desires. And so part of the exciting things is that exciting thing is some of the individuals that have been involved in this inquiry, and there's several books that of different authors that have really, like myself, sought a way to access the we. And so I'm asking the question based on what I learned from you and from this process of what do we want? Because if I'm always getting what I want, then it's equally true if we apply the integral model that we are always getting what we want.
Yeah.
And that the world that we have today is the world that we want to have in our collective subconscious. And part of the challenge is there's really no collective conscious yet. That still is asleep, still slumbering in evolution right now. And some of the inquiries that people like you and I are involved in are not only about living the life that we want individually, but we're also pushing the levels and the boundaries of consciousness for all of us. So there's more than one thing going on here, at least from my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we get to the point in our lives where we're having the life we consciously choose to have, then the evolutionary question is what's next. We're gonna stay there, or are we going to be called to something even more exciting?
Well, yeah, that's my belief that this is a continuing process.
Yep.
And there's no end. I got it. We're done.
Everything's Jake.
Everything's Jake. I was looking for my word. Everything's whatever that word is. I forgot. So yeah, it's an ongoing process. As you were talking, the what do we want? I go back to what I want affects the whole. So me continuing to do my work and live my authentic life allows for other people, allows for that energy to be in the race consciousness, and then trusting that. And I'm open for the dialogue and for the the insights to how we can expand this to include, the global consciousness, how that we can affect it.
Well, that basically, I'm agreeing with what you just said, and that so the truth is I am always affecting the global consciousness.
Yeah.
The question becomes how do I be aware of that? How do I become aware of that? In the same way that accountability practice helps me become aware of what is hidden from me in my subconscious through my emotional body. So again, I think it's early for this inquiry with respect to the capacity to go there, because the question then becomes even just the two of us. So
Right.
we are in a collective consciousness of you and I.
Mm-hmm.
There's a one. This 1 + 1 here equals 1.
Mm-hmm.
But we aren't evolved to the point where we can access each other's feeling body. So you sit there in Oceanside in your feeling body, and I sit here in Sacramento in my feeling body. That's not our access to the subconscious, is through our feeling body. So the question becomes, what's the methodology by which we, you and I, transcend our individual feelings into what we're collectively feeling, knowing that the body is still the instrument by which that occurs? And I don't know how to do that. I just know that's a question that's worth asking as we probe deeper and deeper into this thing called reality.
Yeah. Evolution.
Yeah.
One of the thoughts I had when I was listening to you is believe that it's not separate from the we consciousness. Just believe
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. We
And
start with intention, correct?
yeah. And then act as if, well, yeah, create the intention that I have an intention that speaks to this, and or a statement, and it's everybody goes. Here's what I know: I don't go unless everybody goes. So I'm in it for the long haul. Everybody goes. So I hold that belief, and then find myself doing what I'm doing. Find myself inspired to do the group on Saturday, do the podcast, do my own internal work, vision work. There's my vision to create a world where our children are nurtured to their authenticity, and believe that it is effective.
Yeah.
And then let it go.
Exactly. I believe the principles are universal. I believe our principles apply to us individually and collectively equally.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, as you were just sharing, it occurred to me I could set this intention. I intend to experience myself as us. And then let that go.
Right. The gurus and mystics talk about that. I was listening to Sadhguru, and he says, the truth is we don't know up from down. We're living on a ball, and what I call up is somebody else's down, and what I call east is somebody else's west, and what I call north is somebody else's south. And it depends on where I'm standing that I orient. So I don't know up from down, right from left. I do know inner, outer. I do know what's inside me, and can see the difference of things outside me. And he said in his experience, he has lost the knowingness of that also, of other. It's all one. and he speaks and moves and acts from that place, and he's got a worldwide following and 3 million volunteers doing, feeding people, educating children, planting trees, saving the planet. All volunteer. So maybe that's an intent I can create, to not know the difference between inside and outside, because that is in actuality the only thing that we, based on where we're oriented in this spinning ball in a void, not knowing up from down, back and forwards, right way, wrong way, inner, outer, and to move beyond that. And I believe for me, it's starting with I impact the whole by what I hold. Everybody goes. If we're all one, you can't omit anybody. So, and you know, the idea everybody goes is a concept that really has no meaning in the reality of, because we're not really going, we're already there. We're already, you know, it's already okay. But for me to frame how to where I can be present in the moment, is a way to this place I don't know about. And that's what I tell my clients. It's like, I'm offering you connection to your feeling body, and then they want me to explain to them what that is, and I don't know. They don't know. And once you're connected, then you really realize that you don't know. And there's also in that a peace, a spaciousness, a place that does feel that connected, but then words fall short. So right now we're working in the realm of words to move to that place where you can't explain it. And both of us have experienced, I believe, I know for sure I have, that what I've experienced I cannot articulate to the extent that I've experienced it. I can come close sometimes, but I cannot articulate the embodiment of this process in a way that is like, oh, hallelujah, let's do that. Um, um, so
Well, but the good news is that you can teach me a process and guide me through a process whereby I can experience that for myself.
yes,
And then having experienced that for myself, then you and I can at least use this impoverished language to compare notes and to learn about the coherence between your experience and mine,
right.
and thereby create a sense of communion or community that will still have to transcend the words, because because language is a dividing tool. Language is a distinguishing tool, distinguishing this from that. And you know, it's necessary. We talked about this in a previous podcast. It's necessary to have language, just like it's necessary to have thinking, but it's not an adequate tool for this thing that we're experiencing, for communicating it. And
Mm-hmm.
you said it in several earlier podcasts about I forget who you're quoting about the power or necessity or the importance of dialogue. And
Right.
dialogue is this iterative process whereby we probe into each other's spoken experience in order to create a unity. So there's back and forth. There's commitment to staying in my feeling body as I'm listening, as I'm speaking, knowing that that grounded experience is always grounding. And that if I can then say, okay, I'm feeling whatever it is I'm feeling, and I say that to you, I'm now creating vulnerability. I'm creating that vulnerability and disclosure that actually opens the heart to this oneness between people. So
Mm-hmm.
that's, for me, that's what I learned about dialogue, and particularly, we've talked about this before, Bohmian dialogue, the process of being in a conversation with someone else with the commitment to speak only the truth of what my grounded experience is in the moment, and to share that back and forth. And this often happens in facilitated group meetings where there's an opening. Someone is led to an opening, and we've talked about this, that sense of relief when I finally tell the truth that I've been hiding from myself, so that my felt experience and my thought experience become the same.
Mhm.
And so there's no longer this tension, but there's this disappearance of tension. And that's that experience that cannot be explained. It cannot be expressed in words. It's best experienced by doing it.
Right.
But at the same time, because the opening is so powerful, there is now, we share this with people, there is now in this experience the ground of all possibility. That's why we use in accountability that emotional sense to create something new if we want to. So I feel this, what do I want?
Mm-hmm.
And that the power of that emotional opening is what permits the intention to be grounded in real, the real possibility of manifestation, of coming into embodied experience. I intend to feel peace. Yeah. Yeah. And as you would often say in facilitating our meetings, you say, yeah, you can have that.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I can have that is because I've opened myself up. I've allowed the ground of who I am to now become into experience in my body and in my thoughts as I'm observing my feelings. Boom, what do I want? Well, sky's the limit.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want? What do I want? So that opening is also the power of dialogue. So when two people find ourselves opening in the same kind of way with each other, then boom, there's all kinds of possibility that two people can now create intentionally. That's why I love this shit, because it just brings us deeper and deeper into the experience of love. Now I'm going to use the big L word. This is just love in action. People enjoying one another, learning from one another, dancing with one another, singing with one another, planting and harvesting with one another. Dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, all I can do is go back to my basics of enrichment of self, which is the accountability tree process, um, the four constants of relationship, um, um, and knowing that anything of value comes from internal. Um, and then the capacity to share that with somebody who's also in the same process.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
And for me, the power of all of this work comes down to this basic fact, what you just said. It's like, it's in my embodied experience. And I love the way that you have developed the process to help somebody get started by just asking this very simple question. What do you want that you don't have?
Yeah.
Or what do you want that you used to have and don't have anymore?
Right.
Because that brings me right into me,
Yes.
my direct embodied experience, and it then leads me somewhere.
Yeah, and it also opens you up to something different, new,
Exactly.
and that's where the way we're built as human beings to maintain a focus. it's like we have blinders on to complete a task. And, simply put, it'd be, food, shelter, clothing, building a home. So we have, while we're focused on that, things that aren't pertinent to that still may have meaning, but right now the task is building a home, are non-essential to this task. And if you broaden that out to what we talk about, family of origin dysfunction, childhood trauma, has created a belief about self. We have these blinders on about how we should be, got to be, ought to be, and the information about our authenticity, about our genuineness, about our connectedness to each other, about the oneness, or about the um, um, the impact that we have on each other, is non-essential to the belief developed from a trauma. Mine, for an example, was people are dangerous. You don't know what they're going to do, so have a close-knit number of friends that you can trust, and or you can be the bully. I can be the bully, and I don't have to be perpetrated on. And thinking that I'm doing everything I can for myself to be okay, to be good, to be, and it's actually creating the separation, isolation, aloneness, and destruction in my life that I'm trying to get away from at the same time. And what's coming to me is a story about the gods had this knowingness, this thing that human beings weren't ready for, and they said we need to hide it until they're mature enough to handle it. And one of the guys said, "Well, put it on top of the mountain." And the other guy said, "No, they'll figure out how to climb, and they'll go up there and find it too soon." One of the other guys said, "Well, we'll hide it at the bottom of the sea." And they're going to create submarines. They're going to find it there. We got to find a place where they'll never look. And one of the guys says, "Well, put it in their heart. They'll never look there for the thing they're looking for. They'll think it's outside of themselves. So they put it in here, and then are waiting for us to come to the point where we're willing to recognize in ourselves our magnificence. And why, I mean, somebody told me, and before my recovery, and actually well into my recovery, and I would say, what the hell would I want to look in there for? There's just a pile of shit in there. It's like, that's where all the problem is inside me. That's why I got to fix everything out here. And it's the last place we look, and yet it's right there, right there. And when you touch it through the accountability process, or own your projections, or move towards your pain, when you touch it, you go, wow, whoa, what just happened? Because you actually experience the feeling you have is what you've been looking for out there, which you'll never get. A feeling of relief. So it's like a sloughing off of caked energy. It's a sloughing off of armor, and it's an open, free space. But it's the open, free space isn't outward; it's inward, and it's so spacious. It makes the cosmos look crowded. It's incredible. So
So just what is this accountability process you talk about?
yeah, what is that? Actually, for people who haven't been to one of our groups, I would support you to go to the groups, because it's explained in the groups, and people talk about it and then do the exercises or experience themselves in it. I got it from working at Sacramento County Jail in a violence intervention program that I was running, to where being accountable for my behavior, and accountable without blame or judgment. You look accountable up in the dictionary, and it actually states in there blameworthy, or somebody we're gonna blame for this that's guilty, and then you get punished. That's accountable in the dictionary traditional sense. This is the ability to account for where I find myself with no blame or judgment. Just own the current reality. Am I mean? Am I arrogant? What is going on right now? Am I separated from myself? Am I isolated? Do I have a sense of low self-esteem? Do I feel inadequate? And simply take that truth of where I find myself and plug it into this process as accountability, no blame, no judgment. My truth. I feel I believe I'm inadequate. I'm inadequate. And that truth resonates with the message that created the truth. I'm inadequate. And there's a harmony, there's alignment. That's the first time I heard myself say harmony. And that's what I mean by alignment. There's a tone, there's a frequency that happens that starts this loosening process. So I'm inadequate. I take a breath, and my body knows how to do this emotional connection, seek and find thing if I get to the truth. Another example of that, which might make more sense to people, is when I first said I'm an alcoholic. Hi, my name's John. I'm an alcoholic. There was something that happened. There was a resonance inside my body that was beyond my thinking mind. And after I spoke, my first thought was, I'm coming back, which was completely different than any other time because I'd been to AA meetings wondering what they're doing here, and I'm here to support my friend because he needs help. I wasn't there for myself. And once I said that, I'm an alcoholic, this resonance thing we're talking about happened. And I just found myself desiring more, come back. And that was the beginning of my serious recovery, of my focused recovery. And what I found is it happens in any aspect of my life. If I look for where I'm at, and right now, when I first started this process, it was character defects, behaviors I found myself in that I didn't want, and just simply owning them without judgment or blame, and then saying this different, specific to the statement. If I say I'm inadequate, it is my intent to hold myself in high regard, or is my intent to love myself or forgive myself. And that intent created a resonance in my body, which was a reframe of all the information that created the inadequacy. So it was the movement away from my truth, inadequate, to self-confidence, self-actualization, healthy sense of self and who I am. And, you know, we started this conversation by saying that our word ability to explain the profoundness that I feel in this and the gratitude of what this simple process has given me, and where I find myself today, which is light years away from where I was when I first started. I didn't. I am self-confident. I feel the confidence, but I didn't understand at the time that self-confidence wasn't an absence of anxiety or stage fright or feeling. It was just I felt that fear or anxiety, and I'm able to move towards my fulfillment or move towards what I say I want, which is to talk to people, whether in a group level or a personal level. And self-confidence is rife with feeling. It's rife with what I used to sense as anxiety, as a stopper. Oh, I'm anxious. I have stage fright. I can't talk. I'm going blank. Well, now it's those same body sensations are a validation that I'm alive and doing what I want, and not having it as a block or a roadblock. So
just to reiterate,
yes, go ahead.
the process of accountability is an actual practice.
Yes.
It's not a theoretical, conceptual, something you study in a book.
Right.
And that's why it's really important. I'd like to underscore the invitation that you just gave to the newcomer to check out some of the meetings that we do this work in with group, and how to find that information will be at the end of this podcast.
Right.
Because it really is something that one has to experience for him or herself in order to get what we're talking about. So we're having a conversation because we do want to share with as many people as possible, as quickly as we can, the invitation to experience this sense of relief that comes from stopping the internal fight against ourselves. That's my characterization. The struggle to essentially exist in two worlds. One is the world of defending myself, a little kid defending himself against all comers from the trauma that he experienced as a little kid, assuming that that trauma is perpetual and always happening, versus the adult of us that goes, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why am I fighting something where I know that I shouldn't be fighting? I know I'm wrong, but I can't say it out loud.
Right.
Or other, I said I wouldn't do that, and I found myself doing it anyway. Letting a compulsion master me. And the adult sits there and goes, adult Marty would sit there and go, this doesn't make any sense. And so then I would just get angry at myself. And I would pile on, and I would call myself names, and I would then experience frustration and anxiety and anger, and all of this in service of trying to solve a problem with inadequate tools.
Right.
Until I found accountability. Now I met you over 10 years ago now, hard to believe. I've been doing this work for a long time, not as long as you, obviously. And it took me some time to actually not only engage in the practice, but cease resisting wanting to engage in the practice. And many times I would find myself coming to a meeting with this sense of dread. I don't really want to do this. And the only reason I'm coming to this meeting is because I'll look bad if I don't show up, or other kinds of defensive beliefs that at that time were the best I could use to serve as motivation. But now, as you said, probably a year or so ago in this podcast, I revel in my character defects. And by that I mean the more I know about, the more I'm willing to see things that I label mistakes or backsliding or something criticizable, the more I can learn about myself.
Yeah.
The more I can go deeper into my experience and be willing to state what I want, using these so-called character defects as a doorway to going deeper into what I want. So that for me is the power of the process. Is it helped me see all kinds of stuff about myself that I kind of knew. I could feel rattling around in my body and in my brain, but I had no access to. And since I couldn't have access to it, there was nothing I could do about it, but just feel a prisoner of this never-ending civil war, internal civil war. And then along came accountability. And so for the first time, I was able to speak some really hard truths. And as soon as I was able to say them out loud, that sense of relief that you spoke of flooded into my experience.
Yes.
And so it's like when you said your experience in your meeting, your AA meeting, is I want to come back. In essence, for me, the experience was I want more of this. Whatever this is, I want more of it.
Right.
The sense of
Yeah.
not just peace, but there's actually a sense of joy and exhilaration.
Yeah.
So that's the
spaciousness.
yeah, freedom.
Mm-hmm. And it's in the last place we'd ever look for it, is owning our beliefs, perceptions, and patterns of behaviors that are obstacles to us connecting to ourselves and other people, like arrogance, entitlement, mean, controlling, and needy. And I was taught to not be controlling. So, okay, I'm going to not be controlling. And in the process of not controlling, I'm controlling which then I project that out and control other people, thinking I was doing what you just told me to do. And I couched it under, well, I'm just offering you help. I'm concerned for you. Just quit doing that, and you'll be okay. And that is controlling. It's insidious. It's 180 degrees out of told as how it works. It doesn't work that way. It works in freedom. I remember a therapist saying about a relationship I was in. If you hold a bird in your hand, you'll smother it. If you let it go, if it loves you, it'll come back. And it's like, screw you. What do you mean let it go? Of course it's not going to come back. You don't know who the hell I am? Why would it come back? So I'm going to hold on to it with it. It's like, go out crazy, let it go. That's the last thing I want to do. Because I had abandonment issues, and it really wasn't that person. It was something internal that was, I don't want to use the word triggered. I don't like the word triggered, but instigated based on what happens outside of myself, which is pertinent to the child. The child needs to pay attention to what's going on outside of itself because it's getting abused and or humiliated and or ridiculed or chastised. So it's got to pay close attention to everything. So it takes cues. I took cues from my mother, dad, brothers, extended family, how to be, which was frozen. Just in I wasn't animated anymore. I was looking for the right thing to do so I wouldn't get humiliated or made fun of.
Yeah, so you had to learn to control your animation.
Yes, yeah. And actually, the animated part of me is the life part of me. Expression. So when I grew up, anything that was in the frequency of life expression became the trigger to shut down. It's this process somehow prevents that. I'm mean. Of course I'm mean. Look what happened to me as a child. That's in alignment with me protecting myself. If I'm mean, people stay away. I'm not. I don't have people close to me that can hurt me, and I'm in control. I'm in my mind safe, and yet miserable, isolated, alone, separated from people who give me a sense of self. Um, okay.
And then our challenge is that there's a little kid that made his mind up or her mind up that this is the only way to stay safe is I'm going to be mean or whatever the separating behavior is. And then because nobody intervened and said, oh, no, I can teach you a better way. It just became a self-perpetuating process. First grade, second grade, grade school, high school, adolescence. Oh my God.
Right.
All of the self-forming currents and turmoils of adolescence, if that's the foundation upon which I'm now seeking to become an adult through my teenage years, ooh, that's going to have its level of misery. And then we become
Yeah.
adults. We may start families, we may start professions, we may do both. And again, we're building all of this on this foundation of this little kid who's developed this behavior as a way of staying safe. We attract people to us that will play along, so that nobody ever challenges the way I am. If people challenge the way I am, I get rid of them. I have fights with them, or I just turn my back. And it's just, so it gets reinforced year after year after year. So when we come to do this work, whatever age it is, one of the things that I had to learn is I had to be willing to be patient with myself. Because, so we use the word recovery, the authentic, spontaneous, fun-loving little kid that came into this world. That's who I'm trying to recover my experience of. It takes time. It takes time.
Yeah.
And that's once I got that, once I began to learn, you know what, it's just going to take time. I'm not going to be able to do this perfectly. I may come to meetings and decide I want to hide out. So, okay, I'm just going to do that until I'm ready. And there's a process, there's an exercise that you developed, which I love to refer to as the I give myself permission. So I give myself permission to fail today. I give myself permission to not want to go to a meeting. I give myself permission to be critical of myself, whatever. And I still hold value as a human being.
Yeah.
That my value cannot be added to or decreased regardless of what I think or what I do. That value of me as a human being, or view as a human being, is baked into, once that sperm and egg got together and started creating this human being, that's it. It comes with the package.
Yeah. Yeah. Cannot be diminished nor increased. It is there, complete, always.
Right. And so accountability,
and
I'll just say, just finish the thought, but accountability helps me recover that state of knowing I'm worthy, knowing as a human being, I'm fully worthy of having the life I want. And there's no need to struggle to get there.
Right. Well, except if you're trying to explain this, then that is a struggle. That's a struggle I'm in. Because if I could,
it's not a struggle of subconscious processes here.
Right. Yeah, it's a struggle that I engage in, and if I could articulate this, boom, everybody go, oh, thank you. Oh, how come nobody told me?
Right.
And,
sign me up.
And they just move to it. It's like it's no brainer. But in the meantime, we're faced with everybody's reticular activating system, family of origin dysfunction, childhood trauma, that I'm suspect, that I'm trying to get something from them, or tell them they're wrong, or tell them fix them. I don't want to, which I don't want to do. I don't want to fix. I see everybody as whole, perfect, and complete, and of extreme, immense value, covered up by a lot of lies and trauma. It is covered up.
It's worth maybe spending some time here in the last part of our conversation together about this idea that I'm not broken.
Okay.
There's nothing to be fixed. When I come to this work, I feel myself, and I know myself to be broken. I know there's something wrong. I know that somewhere there's a fix. And then I come into a room and you go, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. I'm not here to fix you or do anything. I've got some information to share with you that might be of value, but I don't see you as what you just said. I see you as whole, complete, and perfect. Where the hell does that come from, John?
Well, my experience of pre-recovery and recovery, in my recovery, I got it that everything in my life was produced from my perception of myself and the world hooked into the survival mechanism reticular activating system, which is the manifesting engine of my reality. So I had created the reality of this, oh my God, everybody's against me, out of thin air, out of my experience. So if I tap in, I don't change that. We don't want to change that. That is whole, perfect, complete. And I created it through my experience with my parents and my guides and my teachers. And okay, if I created this mess, this inadequacy, this addiction, this meanness, oh, I can, same mechanism, same perfect mechanism. I just own the truth about where I found myself and then say, I intend to be kind. And I find myself noticing, at first, I just simply noticed how unkind I was, which is good news because then I had choice. Before, it was not my fault. I wouldn't have done that to you unless you hadn't done that to me. There was blame and judgment about it. If I own that I created this meanness out of my experience, what do I want? Is my intent to be kind. It uses the same mechanism that I see as perfect, only now it's under my conscious guidance through my ability to own the truth about where I find myself. Where I find myself today was produced by this perfect mechanism that created where I wanted to get out of 30 years ago. It's perfect, only it's been lied to. It's subjective. It doesn't equivocate. When my mother said, "You're a problem," oh, I'm a problem, and that became my war cry, and everything I did became a problem. Well, no, I'm what am I? I'm self-actualized. Authentic. I'm genuine. Um, One of the big ones I got is my intent to be of service. And I am now of service. I'm the little kid watching my dad chase my brother down the street with a baseball bat, living in the home that was trashed, and we didn't have clean clothes, and we didn't have lunches, and we didn't have heat. I'm the same guy. I'm the same perfect being, only now I'm re-informed about my magnificence. Hell yes, I'm going to do this. Hell yeah, I'm going to own the end result of my experience, which is mean, controlling, and needy. And whoa, what do I want? Kind, free, and of service. And it happens out of this perfect mechanism. I decide now. And the secret was accountability. No blame, no judgment. It's like people used to tell me that God doesn't judge; He just observes. It's like the sun. The sun shines on the good and bad. Well, okay, that's not fair. Well, no, the sun shines on the good and bad. It's you that determine where you want to be on that spectrum. And if you own, we're going to call it bad or mean, means in alignment with being brutalized as a child. Sure, yeah. I'm mean. There's a constellation of feeling, tone, awareness, experiences, all on a frequency level. Some of it cognitive, some of it I can remember and have details and pictures of. Most of it I don't. But it's a feeling tone. And when I say it is my intent to be kind, that frequency fuses with the meanness at the intensity and then drops back down into my subconscious with a directive to seek and find kindness. And I pop out and people say, John, you're so calm. You're safe to be around. And it's like, oh yeah, that's my intent. If somebody, nobody would even venture to say to me before my recovery that I'm safe to be around, because I wasn't. I was dangerous. I was volatile. You never knew what I was going to do. Now people feel safe around me. What did I do? I own the truth. I'm me. It is my intent to be kind. That's the mechanism I see as perfect. And the insidiousness of this was, I was innocent before this happened. I maintained my innocence. Now I'm consciously putting into this mechanism what I want to manifest. And it's different than affirmations. I used to do affirmations. I'm rich and abundant. I'm this. Okay, and it was like putting a slight coat of icing over this pile of mess stuff that was all internal confusion. And I will manifest. One of my times I went to church and the minister says, "There's only one thing you cannot not do." I was like, "Whoa, what is that?" And the word she said was manifest. I am manifesting all the time, 100%, all the time, from conception to this present moment. I'm manifesting. The problem with, from conception, I started pulling in the energy of my parents fighting. I know they did because I know my parents. And then internalizing that, and that became what my reticular activating system said, okay, so you can do this because that's what life is. That's what you're being shown. Well, no, that's not what life is. It's their interpretation of what life is. In my truth, I get to interpret what this is. I have choice. There's a choice in that. And without getting to that truth, I think I'm making choices, but I'm just reinforcing the lie that was told to me as a child. Now I'm on the lie. I'm mean. Well, yeah, that's an alignment. It hurts. There's pain there. There's awareness of the destruction I did to the people around me, specifically my children, my ex-wife. And then there's this swelling of sadness and at the same time joy. It is my intent to be kind. And I find myself acting kindly, and I didn't have to know how to be kind. It came out of me, just like the meanness came out of me. So this is a process. The accountability tree process is a reframing tool. It reframes what was told to me about who I am and how I relate to the people around me to what I want. If you ask people, would you rather be happy or sad? They say, well, happy. Well, okay, go ahead. It's like, and they find themselves 99% of the time in some kind of self-critical place, and happy is very, very limited and brief. Well, it is my intent to experience the joy that my life is, and that's one of your intents. It is my intent to be in the adventure of my life. Well, yeah, it's like, oh my God. So I'll stop.
I have a couple questions, and we don't have a lot of time left, so I'm going to pick this one up because it might puzzle the newcomer. You used the term reticular activating system. Could you just explain what that is a little bit?
Yeah, it's a net-like group of cells that permeate the brainstem. Our innate sense, it breathes us, it beats our heart, it does the chemical exchanges in our bodies throughout our whole body, cellular body. And the brain, the midbrain, which is our emotional processing part of our brain, it's a net-like group of cells that permeate these two things to maintain stasis. And if my stasis, my knowingness is I'm not worthy, anything contrary to that belief is non-essential information for my survival, because I survived being worthless. It makes no sense. I know what I just said makes no sense. And this part of my reticular activating system, midbrain, brainstem, is hooked into my survival mechanism. And it says, for you to survive, act this way. And no matter how vehemently I fight that, this wins. Just look around at the addiction problem, the obsessive problem, the taking pills for depression problem, violence problem, pregnancy problem, wars, polarization, reticular activating system, subconscious pool of information. And the accountability tree uncovers the lie and then feeds it what I want to feed it. And it's life changing, it's life saving, it's life affirming, and it's counterintuitive at the best.
So from our perspective, then would it be fair to say that this is an information filtering system that's programmed by our survival needs
Yes.
initially, but
Mm-hmm.
the reticular activating system, this network of cells, is itself neutral, and therefore it can be reprogrammed. Is that not accurate?
Yes, that's what we're doing with the accountability tree process.
Right. So I just want to give a quick example of just a crude example of the reticular activating system's filtering capability. I remember about, I don't know, 10 years ago, I was selling my house. And so I'm focusing on all the stuff you have to do to sell your house, get the realtor and do the paperwork and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, I just noticed all the houses that were for sale in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I had never noticed houses for sale before that because I
Right.
wasn't in the work of selling a house.
Right.
So it's just interesting. It's a little example of how my reticular activating system was now focused on selling my house, and now selling house sort of just started showing up in my awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was done selling my house, I didn't see any houses for sale anymore.
Right. It's like buying. I'm going to buy a red car. Okay. Well, shit. There's a shitload of red cars out there. I didn't notice red cars before, but now I'm seeing
Right.
red cars. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So if my reticular activating system says I'm not worthy to have what I want, then I'm going to just notice frustration
Yes.
pretty much everywhere. And
A
I'm not only
lack.
going to notice it in me, but I'm going to notice it in you.
Yes.
And if you're not frustrated, I'm probably not going to pay attention to you.
Yeah. I'll be an exception to the rule.
Right.
I'll be a
Exactly.
special. I'm a special person.
He's lucky.
I'm a lucky guy. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Reticular activating system. And you put it in the greater context of a childhood full of trauma and the complication of that in worthiness, in relationships, in money, in job, career. It gets so enmeshed, and this process takes a little bit at a time, reframes it, and then gives you a foundation to build the next intent or accountability truth on. And it's cumulative, and it works.
Well, I think that's a good place that we can leave this off. I still have other questions, but I'll raise them next week. And
Okay.
as always, John, any last word or thoughts that you'd like to share before we wrap things up?
It is my intent to give this information to as many people as possible in the shortest amount of time. And I will to talk about the reticular activating system, subconscious pool of information, childhood trauma, until I don't need to talk about it anymore. Everybody's just being authentic. We're in a fifth level of consciousness, and we're working on whatever that dilemma is.
All right. Can't say fairer than that. So again, if you'd like to actually experience what the heck we're talking about for yourself, please send an email to John or me at our email addresses will be in the screen after we wrap up here, and we'll be happy to let you know about accessing the Zoom meetings that John facilitates on Saturday mornings, or I and my colleagues facilitate in the evenings during the week, Thursdays and Mondays, all at Pacific time. And we hope to see you, and come with your questions and concerns, come with your arguments, whatever. And we'll be happy to share with you what we know and share with you what we don't know.
Yeah.
So thanks again, as always, John. Appreciate it. And look forward to seeing you again next week.
You got it.